For 70 years, we've been told a simple story. Queen Elizabeth II was selective about her jewellery. Some pieces suited her, others didn't. Some were too old-fashioned, others too sentimental. But what if I told you there were far more calculated reasons behind these choices? What if the Queen's jewellery decisions weren't about personal taste at all, but about something much more strategic? Today, I want to share with you a different perspective on why certain magnificent treasures spent decades in darkness. Because when you look closely at the patterns, the timing, and the politics surrounding these pieces, a fascinating picture emerges. This isn't just about a woman choosing what to wear. This is about a monarch carefully orchestrating the visual language of power itself. Let's start with the most telling example: Queen Mary's diamond sautoir. These weren't just any diamonds. They were the rescued treasures of the Grand Duchess Vladimir, smuggled out of revolutionary Russia in Gladstone bags by a brave friend disguised as a workman. When the world turned upside down in 1917, the Grand Duchess fled St. Petersburg, but her jewels remained hidden in a safe in her bedroom at the Vladimir Palace. In a daring operation, Bertie Stopford snuck into the palace disguised as a workman and smuggled the treasures out in a pair of Gladstone bags. When Queen Mary acquired them and had them reset into this magnificent long chain in 1928, she created something extraordinary. It was a versatile piece, typical of Mary's more is more philosophy. It could be worn as a long chain, divided into shorter necklaces, or even converted into bracelets. She wore it constantly, often pairing it with her heavy tiaras for that formidable, regal look she perfected. Yet Elizabeth II never wore it as a necklace, not once. The official reason? She found long chains bothersome, saying they get in the soup. But consider this: Elizabeth II was a woman who wore heavy tiaras for hours without complaint, who managed the mechanics of the Vladimir tiara's interchangeable drops with precision. Are we really to believe she couldn't manage a necklace? I think the real reason was far more sophisticated. These were Russian Imperial diamonds, and Elizabeth II came to the throne during the height of the Cold War. Every public appearance was scrutinized, every symbol analyzed. Wearing the rescued jewels of the Romanovs might have sent unintended political messages at a time when Britain was navigating delicate relationships with the Soviet Union. The same pattern emerges with pieces that carry geographic and political weight. Consider the bearing ruby necklace, which Elizabeth II purchased herself in 1964. This wasn't a gift or inheritance, it was a strategic acquisition bought at auction. The necklace featured 3 pendant drops set with flat-cut rubies believed to be originally earrings that were converted. For the Queen, this wasn't just a pretty object, it was a necessary tool for the job. In the 1960s, she lacked a substantial ruby necklace for state occasions, as the crown rubies were still with the Queen Mother. But here's what's fascinating. After serving its purpose as a workhorse of her collection for state visits to Germany and the United States, it too vanished from public view. Unlike the grand heirlooms, this was her purchase, her choice. Yet even this practical acquisition was eventually retired. Was it simply replaced by better pieces, or did its auction origins make it somehow less suitable for the evolving image of the monarchy? The insurance and security considerations also played a crucial role that's rarely discussed. Take Granny's chips, Cullinan 3 and 4. These diamonds, weighing over 150 carats combined, represent an almost incalculable value. The Cullinan diamond was pulled from the earth in South Africa in 1905, a staggering 3,106 carats of rough blue-white diamond. It remains the largest gem-quality rough diamond ever found. While the 2 largest stones sit in the scepter and the imperial state crown, these smaller sections have a slightly different history. Queen Mary, with her typical disregard for minimalism, wore them everywhere. She pinned them to her bodice. She even hooked them into her Delhi Durbar Tiara. But when Elizabeth II inherited them in 1953, she treated them with far more caution. The official explanation focuses on their weight and impracticality for modern wear, but consider the security implications. In an era of increasing global instability and sophisticated criminal networks, wearing such recognizable, valuable pieces became a security nightmare. Their appearances became vanishingly rare, which made the moments she did choose them all the more electric. One of the most significant outings was in 1958 during a state visit to the Netherlands. In a touching nod to history, the Queen wore the brooch to visit the Asher workshop in Amsterdam. She unpinned the brooch and handed it to Louis Asher, the nephew of the man who had cut the original stone 50 years earlier. Aged 84, he was deeply moved that the Queen had brought the diamonds with her. After that, they largely disappeared, emerging only for exhibitions or the rarest of portraits. Then came 2012. To celebrate her Diamond Jubilee, the Queen attended a service of thanksgiving at St. Paul's Cathedral, and there, pinned to her outfit, were Granny's chips. It was a masterstroke. Nothing says, "I have reigned for 60 years, quite like the effortless display of the world's most impressive diamonds." But perhaps the most revealing case involves the Greville collection. When Dame Margaret Greville died in 1942, she left her spectacular jewellery collection to the Queen Mother in a now legendary black tin trunk. Among these treasures was the Greville Emerald Kokoshnik Tiara, featuring a colossal 93.70 carat central emerald. For 76 years, this masterpiece remained completely hidden. The Queen Mother never wore it. Elizabeth II never wore it. It was so unknown that its very existence was just a whisper among jewellery historians, confirmed only by a single image discovered in the Boucheron archives. Why would two queens ignore such a magnificent piece? The answer may lie in Mrs. Greville herself. She was known for her sharp tongue and controversial opinions. By the time Elizabeth II inherited the collection, these associations may have made the pieces politically sensitive. The tiara's dramatic reappearance at Princess Eugenie's wedding in 2018 came only after sufficient time had passed for these connections to fade from public memory. The pattern becomes even clearer when we examine the pieces that were actively shared versus those that remained locked away. The Cartier Halo Tiara, purchased by King George VI for his wife in 1936, was freely loaned to younger royals. Made in the summer of 1936, this band was meant to enhance the Duchess of York's relatively modest jewellery collection. But when her husband unexpectedly became King George VI, this charming little tiara seemed rather too modest for a queen consort. So in 1944, as Princess Elizabeth celebrated her 18th birthday during the austere war years, the Queen Mother gave her own halo tiara to mark her daughter's transition into adulthood. Remarkably, the future Queen Elizabeth II was never once photographed wearing her birthday present. Instead, it became a sort of travelling crown for younger women in the family. Princess Margaret wore it to Elizabeth's coronation. Princess Anne used it in the 1970s, and Catherine chose it for her wedding. This piece had no controversial history, no political baggage. It was safe to circulate. But compare this to the Delhi Durbar Tiara, created for the 1911 ceremony that proclaimed George V and Queen Mary as Emperor and Empress of India. This was Queen Mary's masterpiece, what King George V himself called May's best tiara. She had her existing Boucheron loop tiara dismantled and the diamonds completely reimagined into something befitting an empress. Yet after one appearance by the Queen Mother in South Africa in 1947, it virtually disappeared. Elizabeth II never wore it publicly, and even when she loaned it to Camilla, it appeared just once before returning to storage. The Delhi Durbar Tiara represents the absolute peak of British imperial power, created for a ceremony that symbolized dominion over the Indian subcontinent. As the empire dissolved and Britain's relationship with its former colonies evolved, this tiara became a visual reminder of a chapter many preferred to close quietly. Its rare appearances suggest it was considered too loaded with imperial symbolism for regular use. The emotional manipulation theory becomes particularly compelling when we examine the Queen Mother's signature pieces. The Greville tiara, the Queen Mother's beloved honeycomb creation, was never worn by Elizabeth II despite being inherited in 2002. For the Queen Mother, this tiara became an absolute favourite. After the death of her husband, she wore it for decades, for state banquets, gala performances, and countless formal portraits. She even had it altered slightly by Cartier in 1953, adding a bit more height and a few more large diamonds to make it even more impressive. The sapphire corsage brooch tells an even more poignant story. This was a wedding gift in 1923 from Queen Mary to her new daughter-in-law, designed in the negligee style, with 2 diamond and sapphire tassels hanging at different lengths. The Queen Mother adored this piece. She wore it frequently in the joyous 1920s, though she quietly put it away during the harsh years of the Second World War, perhaps feeling it was too opulent for the Blitz. But it reappeared triumphantly in the late 1940s, and she continued to wear it right into her 80s. She pinned it to her shoulder for the christening of Prince William in 1982, and she wore it riding in a carriage with a young Prince Harry in 1991. When she passed away, the brooch went to her daughter, and for 20 years, silence. Queen Elizabeth II never wore it, not once. Perhaps even more telling is that she never loaned it to anyone else, even though she was generous with other pieces from her mother's collection. But was this really about sentiment, or was it about something more strategic? By keeping her mother's signature pieces unworn, Elizabeth II maintained the Queen Mother's distinct visual identity even after death. This preserved the monarchy's generational continuity while avoiding any suggestion that she was trying to replace or overshadow her beloved mother's memory. It was a masterclass in managing public perception and family dynamics. The timing of certain pieces' reappearance also reveals careful orchestration. Queen Mary's diamond bandeau, unseen for 65 years, emerged for Meghan Markle's wedding in 2018. This elegant, flexible bandeau tiara was created by Garrard in 1932, specifically to showcase a small diamond brooch that had been given to Queen Mary as a wedding present in 1893 by the people of Lincolnshire. That little brooch had sat in her jewellery box for nearly 40 years before she decided to build an entire tiara around it. Queen Mary wore her new bandeau occasionally, mostly for less formal events like film premieres. When she died in 1953, she left it to her granddaughter, Elizabeth II, and then nothing. Complete silence for 65 years. This wasn't coincidence, it was strategic. The choice of a long-forgotten piece for such a scrutinized event allowed the palace to create a sense of history and tradition while avoiding the baggage that might come with more recognizable tiaras. The most sophisticated aspect of this strategy involves understanding the constitutional hierarchy of jewelry. The George IV state diadem, arguably the most recognizable piece in the royal collection, was treated with a reverence that bordered on the bureaucratic. Created in 1820 for King George IV's coronation, it became Elizabeth II's working uniform for the state opening of Parliament. She understood that a crown, even one this elegant, is not evening wear. It is a badge of office. The coronation necklace and earrings tell a similar story. The existence of this set is actually the result of a bitter family feud. When Queen Victoria ascended the throne in 1837, her uncle became the King of Hanover and laid claim to jewels that had belonged to their grandmother, Queen Charlotte. Victoria was forced to pack up magnificent diamonds and pearls and ship them to Germany. She turned to Garrard and commissioned replacements, using diamonds from swords and useless things lying about the royal collection. This set carries a weight of tradition that few other pieces can match. It has been worn at every coronation since its creation. The message was clear. These pieces weren't just jewelry, they were the uniform of sovereignty itself. Even pieces with the most romantic origins became tools of political messaging. The Oriental Circlet, designed by Prince Albert himself in 1853 and inspired by Indian jewelry at the Great Exhibition, was designated by Queen Victoria as an heirloom of the crown to be worn by future queens. Yet Elizabeth II wore it exactly once in her entire reign, a state banquet in Malta in 2005. Its Indian-inspired design may have become diplomatically sensitive as Britain navigated post-colonial relationships. The Brazilian Aquamarine Parure presents perhaps the most intriguing case of strategic withdrawal. This was Elizabeth II's own creation, assembled and evolved entirely according to her vision. It began with a spectacular gift from Brazil in 1953, a necklace and earrings featuring enormous, perfectly matched rectangular aquamarines. She was so enchanted that she commissioned a matching tiara, then had it completely rebuilt in 1971 into a towering masterpiece. For decades, this magnificent parure accompanied her on state visits, right up until the Spanish state banquet in 2017. But since her passing, this creation has vanished. When Queen Camilla debuted an aquamarine tiara in November 2024, she chose the much smaller, more delicate aquamarine ribbon tiara, a piece Elizabeth II had worn only once in her entire life. The Brazilian set's silence suggests it was considered too iconic, too closely linked to Elizabeth's personal image to be worn by anyone else. The most telling evidence of this conspiracy lies in what we don't see. The Love Trophy collar, Queen Mary's aggressive symbol of Edwardian excess, hasn't been worn since the 1930s. Queen Alexandra's collier récit, the flexible diamond fishnet, remains a ghost. These pieces aren't just unfashionable, they're politically inconvenient, representing eras of monarchy that modern royals prefer not to evoke. Even the pieces that were actively shared tell a story of careful curation. The lotus flower tiara's journey from the Queen Mother to Margaret to Catherine wasn't random. It represented a deliberate strategy of keeping certain pieces visible while maintaining their royal associations. When it appeared on Catherine in 2013, it created exactly the kind of continuity narrative the palace wanted to project. As we watch Queen Camilla and the Princess of Wales begin to explore these collections, we're not just seeing new fashion choices. We're witnessing the next chapter in this ongoing strategy. Camilla's revival of the Girls of Great Britain and Ireland tiara in October 2023 marked the end of the mourning period for the jewellery collection. Her choice of the Oriental Circlet for Catherine at the German state banquet signals that the strict, literal rules of the Elizabethan era are evolving. The real conspiracy wasn't that these pieces were hidden, it's that we never realised how deliberately, how strategically, and how brilliantly they were being used to shape the very story of the modern monarchy itself. Every disappearance was calculated, every reappearance orchestrated, every silence as meaningful as any glittering public moment. If you're finding these connections as fascinating as I am, I'd be so grateful if you could show your support with a like and subscribe to the channel. It truly helps me continue uncovering these hidden stories, and there are so many more secrets waiting to be explored.